Israel is in a very difficult situation. It needs to defend itself, and it needs to respond to the really horrific attacks that took place on October 7th and make sure that Hamas is not able to do something like that again. But it also has a moral and legal responsibility, as well as a political one, to do so in a way that minimizes the loss of innocent civilian lives, and that really honors the sanctity of all life.
And I know you're referring to both sides in this. You wrote an op-ed in The Hill, the headline, "In Israel and Gaza, I choose the side of humanity, realizing that Hamas chooses the other." Is that fair?
Well, again, the end of that was not in the headline. But yes, look, Hamas has made it clear.
No, I added that. I'm asking you that question based on your headline.
Yeah. I mean, Hamas has made it clear long before October 7th, but certainly with its horrific attack, which is a massacre of civilians, right? A massacre of innocent people, women, children, infants, that they don't respect human life. And frankly, the fact that they embed themselves among the civilian population in Gaza, the fact that they have food and fuel and other materials that they don't give to the civilian population of Gaza makes it clear that they don't have that respect for the sanctity of human life. The question that Israel faces, and the question that we as leaders in the United States face, is simply whether we're going to take the same position as Hamas or not. And for me, part of that point of choosing the side of humanity is moving away from what we've seen so much of on the, quote, pro-Israel side and pro-Palestinian side, of people just trying to score points for their team, people trying to prove that Israelis are all right and justice and righteous and just, or Palestinians are all righteous and just. This is not that simple, and it's not a sporting event where you cheer for your team. These are the real lives of real people, and incredibly difficult questions that don't have easy answers but need to be addressed.
Does Benjamin Netanyahu respect the lives of Palestinian civilians?
Look, I think it is unbelievably evident that Benjamin Netanyahu and his entire government have failed. That, frankly, was clear in many ways before October 7th. But on October 7th, it became clear that they failed at what is the fundamental function of government, which is protecting the lives of its civilians. And his response, what we've seen taking place in Gaza since then, as well as what we've seen in the West Bank, and frankly, what we saw before October 7th, is that Benjamin Netanyahu values his own political future. And that is his priority. He puts that ahead of frankly, the good of the Israeli people and certainly the good of the Palestinian people.
What do you make of the Quinnipiac University poll that came out yesterday? I mentioned at the top of the hour here, we are seeing a shift. The number of voters in America sympathizing more with Palestinians increasing by double digits from the same survey last month. And it's not a surprise to see that driven by people under 35. Those who are older, and particularly those over 65, are far more likely to hold the opposite positions, and that probably represents lawmakers here in Washington and the active voting public a lot more. But was this a surprise to you, or something that you expect to see continue?
Yeah, it's certainly not a surprise. I think given what we are seeing, the images that are coming out of Gaza, the stories and the reports that we're hearing, I'm not surprised at this at all. I agree with what you said, that doesn't reflect, certainly not Congress, and frankly, probably not the majority of voting Americans. You know, these polls, I often honestly find very problematic and not very helpful beyond a broad talking point. Because if you ask me, am I pro-Israel? I would say yes. I'm an Israeli citizen. I am an IDF veteran. If you ask me, am I pro-Palestinian? I would also say yes. I don't think those things can be mutually exclusive. Not only that they shouldn't be, but they can't be. And I say that because, you know, this war is going to come to an end. It's not as soon as I would like it to, and I don't know when, but it will end. And when it does, there will still be Israelis there. And when it does, there will still be Palestinians there. And those Israelis and those Palestinians have to find a better way to live and work together going to the future. There's literally simply no option. So somebody who tells me that they are pro-Israel but anti-Palestinian is not pro-Israel, and the same the other way around.
We're spending some time talking with Hadar Susskind, the president and CEO of the group Americans for Peace Now, and a very important piece of information as a former member of the IDF. As you just told us, what do you think your former brothers in arms are going through here, being asked to carry out incredibly dangerous operations in Gaza?
Brothers and sisters, first of all, I will say, Israel certainly is one among the leaders in having integrated, in terms of gender, its armed forces, including its combat forces. Look, again, I think that the attacks of the 7th required a military response. No country would or should allow an attack like that on its citizens, a massacre of somewhere between 12 and 1,400 people, 240 or so people taken hostage. So a military response, sadly, was necessary. But that's not a blank check, and that doesn't mean any military response is okay. The responsibility for that and for what the actions are and what the decisions are, of course, rests with the political leadership, not the day-to-day soldiers. But I'll tell you, along with many friends and many colleagues and acquaintances, I have a nephew who is a combat soldier in the IDF right now, and they are going through terrible, terrible things. And again, there's no one side to this. Obviously, the people of Gaza are suffering unimaginable horrors, but so too have the people of Israel, and so too have the soldiers of the IDF, many of whom have lost their lives in this recent bout of the conflict and been injured, and again, like everyone involved, been traumatized.